Wow, that was amazing!
I never knew the school had so much history. It's just always been there.
I guess you're right. We just turn up, do our lessons, and never really think about what has happened before.
I rather think that's what this is all about.
How do you mean?
Think about it. This is making us think about the past and how Orewas is a special place.
You're right. I suppose knowing something about the past helps us to understand the present.
And the future.
Right. For example, school. There are lots of things that are different now.
Like computers.
Exactly, but lots of other things are the same. Things change, but others don't.
You're right. I never thought of that before. Come on, let's find some more things out. Where next?
Let's look at the map.
I think the next bit of the project is about employment. Where could that be?
Here, what about the mill?
But that's just houses.
Well, it is now, but it was a mill.
What, like a windmill?
Yes, but not a windmill. You know where we met this morning, by the mill stream?
Yes.
Think about it, the mill stream.
Oh, I see. You mean the mill is powered by water?
I reckon so. Dad was explaining it to me when we went to feed the ducks. Let's go and find out.
Look, here's the mill, but where's the sign?
This one's easy. Look, it's here.
Brilliant. Well, here we go again.
Indeed we do.
Originally, I think in the 60s, there were 4 doctors, Dr. Rushen and Dr. Taylor.
Bill Taylor.
In Barton. And then Dr. Livingston and Dr. Platt, and then a Dr. Smith. And I think probably in the 50s or 60s, they shared the practice between Orewas and Barton.
At the surgery was Dr. Platt and Dr. Livingstone, and at the time they had a secretary called Mrs. Singer, just for a short while, and then Mary Shermer took over when Mrs. Singer retired, and the receptionist was Mrs. Bates, and another lady called Jill Gibson.
And then I came and met Dr. Livingston, and I just thought it was such a lovely village, and I just liked the feel of the place. But at the time, Dr. Livingston had just split up with another doctor, and they were working in separate surgeries. So anyway, so I was a bit nervous about joining Dr. Livingston. There were 2 practices, but the family practitioner committee, who were in charge, then said, no, you join.
I started working at the surgery because my mum retired and I was qualified as a midwife, so I actually took my mum's job, and that was in 1968. So that really was the reason.
And so I joined him in 1977, and it was quite different. There were 2 doctors, 1 receptionist. The surgery opened at 8:30, and we had to be out by 10:30 because Dr. Livingston would always leave by 10:30. The doors were locked, and then the answer phone, the telephone, was switched through to one of our wives.
Yeah, as the surgery expanded, because of the village expanding, we had another doctor arrive, Dr. Horton. and he introduced different clinics and, you know, like chiropody and things, you know, different things were happening at the surgery then.
Yes, I came in 1984, having been a trainee in Coleshill, which is sort of near the NEC. So we left South Africa in about 1980, and we were looking for something not too hectic, really. And in those days, there was really tough competition to get into practices, and I guess 100 applicants was average at the time. And a friend of a friend nudged Rob in the ribs and said, "It's worth meeting this guy," to which I'm eternally grateful.
We'd realised that we needed a bit more help. I wasn't really happy with this no one in the surgery between 10:30 and 2. So that changed. So there was someone there most of the day. And I can't quite remember when we took on Aline.
A couple of years after Dr. Horton arrived, he asked me to be the practice nurse at the surgery. So I agreed because the home deliveries of babies, you know, were dwindling because everybody was going into hospital.
So we needed more space. So we pushed out, looking at the surgery to the right in 1979, and added 2 new consultation rooms, one for Stuart, one for myself, and then an examination room in the middle.
That's the current waiting room. The new waiting room was that first extension.
Yeah. And that's so the practice developed quite a bit. But then it was Sheikh coming in 1984, and our ideas to train, further develop the practice. And then I think it was after UK. I can't remember whether it was after UK. We heard a rumour that the telephone exchange next door to the surgery was up for sale, and that the doctors were going to buy it.
Yes, that was as I arrived.
Yeah.
He said, "I must tell you, there's a rumour around that we're buying the telephone exchange." I said, "Oh, are we?" He said, "I don't know. Are we?" And we did.
So we put in a sealed bid. It was a sealed bid.
Yeah.
And we put in a bid for £2,000, and we weren't sure whether we'd get it. And just about the time you came, we got the telephone exchange.
Shaped like a loaf of bread, a single building. And we filled in the gap between the surgery and the telephone exchange.
The gap is behind is the bit behind the electricity substation.
Yeah.
Yes, as part of my job as practice nurse then was to do blood tests, smear tests, ECGs, hearing tests, asthma tests, minor surgery with the doctors, travel and baby vaccinations, and various bits of counselling as well.
And in those days, we were still doing our own on-call, and the trainee, who was with us for a year, was attached to the practice, and we bought a bungalow in the village for the trainee to live in, because they needed someone to live to be on call. So they shared our on-call, 1 in 3. And then I'm not quite sure why, but the bungalow next to the surgery came up for sale. And it was quite a bit bigger than the bungalow that we got for the trainee or for the registrar. But we decided it would be a good opportunity. So we sold the little bungalow we had in Walkfield, and we bought the bungalow next door to the surgery, not at that time with the intention of blending it into the surgery, but just as a place for the registrar, and with a view that sometime in the future we might be able to link it up. And then I think it was in 1995 that we linked it up.
As the village grew, many more patients registered, and we then had 3 partners, Dr. Horton, Dr. Siegel and Dr. Mager Jones. And we had extensions built, making more accommodation to have more clinics and lots more things going on. And then computers arrived, which I absolutely hated. I can cope with them now, but not at the time. They were very alien.
Interestingly, the village, has been a slow development, but I'd say the surgery's developed quicker, in terms of pace. And what I'm referring to there is staff and nursing staff and services. And we started training in '87. I'd say, if there were trajectories, now the village has grown, but the surgery's gone on a steeper trajectory.
Because it was so busy at the surgery, we needed, more help really. But I really didn't want to work full time because I'd got the kids, and so I knew about Paula, and I knew she'd fit in very well at Oreworth Surgery, and I asked Paula if she would join, and all the doctors very much agreed with it. I think it took Paula a little while to decide. It was a bit of a shock, but she's still there and obviously enjoys it.
In 1994, I was working at St Giles Hospice in Lichfield, just very part-time. And I think in about May, I was shopping with baby Jake in the village, in the Co-op I think, and ran into Aline Jackson. We were just chatting, and she said they were looking for a new nurse and would I be interested? Would I like to come along to the surgery for a chat? And in fact that's exactly what I did. So she, Rob, Horton and I chatted in the treatment room just over the way, very informal, and I started just a few weeks after that. That was 20 years ago.
1960s onwards, and the builders slowly diminished. When you come into Main Street, there was Mays, Rayworths, W.E. Wards, Bannisters, Arthur Ward. They were there then, plus an estate yard which did the building as well, which was in Main Street. So, but after that, as other builders came in, developers came into the village, bought farms and developed them, and the village seemed to shrink because a lot of small builders set up from out of the village and came into the village and did work.
The people like Wards, they had everything on site, didn't they?
That's right. Wards
you did your apprenticeship in Wards joiner's shop, didn't you?
That's right, and you did both. You were classed as a carpenter and joiner in those days. You worked in the shop and you worked outside. And as an apprentice, if the boss sent you somewhere, you went. Whether it was a plumber's mate or driving a lorry or whatever, that was part of your learning curve. But it was a good learning curve because you saw other trades.
Father used to chop meat, put salt and pepper, India pepper, to it. That's all he did. No preservatives, just salt and pepper. Delicious. And then after the war, the country got clever. In the 60s and 70s, and all the food went chemical.
My grandfather, I can just about remember going to W.E. Ward's yard, which is obviously where the converted now, it's White Hart Mews. I can just about remember going there into the joiner's shop, which was at the first floor above behind David Butcher's house.
Even the ingredients we put into the sausage, it would keep its colour on the counter for a week and it wouldn't go off.
Then I left there and went to the NHBC in 1966 until 1979. I was headhunted by Bailey Construction, which I stayed there till it went, before it went bump in 1990,
That's right.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Richard joined us, I had him as an apprentice. He went to tech the same as I did.
But my daughter couldn't eat my own sausage, and it was all these chemicals, enhancers and things. And I went to a meat trade fair at Harrogate. It had been around about 1980. Yes. And I said to a man who was in business when Father was, as a lad then, and he sold the real McCoy, just like Dad did. And I said to him, I said, Gordon, I said, I want sausage just like Dad did. See? And he knew exactly what I wanted. I told him Dad's recipe and he makes it for me.
I started February 1993, we had a Prince's Trust loan to start RJK going. Dad was gone back to Bailey's, we'd left Bailey's at the time, and I was just starting one man and a wheelbarrow. That's all it was ever going to be. Did some jobs for Peter Coates, Patrick Curran were my first customers.
I said, I gave him a big long list of all different flavours I wanted. Hi, that's great, he says. Where's Olribus? I said, it's near Burton-on-Trent. Hey, that's south of Manchester. I said, just a bit. I don't want to go south of Manchester. I said, you do now. He's in his third factory.
And then it just sort of snowballed from then, and we took more and more guys on. Then Dad came from East Staffsborough Council back to join me, and that's where we are today.
It was just a converted cart shed and this old cottage. That was the manufacturing area. That was the abattoir. And we used to kill in the old black and white building, which is the office now.
In going back and working around the village and all the houses that you know, my grandfather worked on when he was you know, being built, and all the houses that Bannister's built, and working up and down like Wellfield Road was one where Bannister's built alone.
J.T. Leasley built.
It was one of my Uncle Don's shops. He was born here, Donald was, and he went 1932. He married Ruth Hall from Kings Bromley, and they did very well there. And when my cousin, who inherited the shop, wanted to give it up, Uncle Donald came and said, I would like Anthony to do it. And Anthony just left school, and we took the chance, and that was the first. Tamworth, yes. One of Anthony's friends is the landlord, and he said, look, I've got a butcher shop, fully equipped, why don't you take it? And we did. And that's happened again at Woolerton, which looks like being our flagship shop. It's going really well.
I came to Orreworth Post Office on February the 3rd, 1988, with my late husband Larry Martin, and so I've been there just nearly 26 years now, retiring on the 22nd of January 2014, because we were looking for a post office, my husband and I, and they did mail work there, which meant you had to get up at 6 o'clock, and the post people came into the premises and sorted the post. And because I couldn't get up early in the morning, I decided it wasn't for me. So we then took a post office on at Stapenhill in Burton-on-Trent. And then in 1988, went up for sale again, and they'd taken the mail work away from the post office and then did it at Burton-on-Trent. And I decided I would go for it again. So we got it in February. We were still running our post office at Stapenhill, so one of us was over at Stapenhill and one of us was here for 3 months. When we first came, it was a very busy village post office. We'd had a busier post office. We'd had a 3-position. We came here, it was only a 2-position. So I think we thought we were going to semi-retire when we came here, but the house had been added to over the years, and what we did was we spent a lot of time adding again to the house and bringing it more into the line with us. And then it changed. We lost a lot of customers. They seemed to take work off us. They stopped the pension books, and they wanted people to have it paid into the bank. A lot of people didn't want to do, but a lot of people did, and now they don't have the option to have it paid at the post office. They have to have it paid into the bank, so they've taken a lot of work from us now.